The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus and his disciples came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man whom they begged him to touch. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Then, putting spittle on his eyes and laying his hands on him, he asked, "Can you see anything?" The man who was beginning to see replied, "I can see people, but they look like trees to me, but they are walking about." Then he laid his hands on the man's eyes again, and he saw clearly. He was cured, and he could see everything plainly and distinctly. And Jesus sent him home, saying, "Do not even go into the village." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear brothers and sisters, we come across the first healing of the blind in Mark's Gospel. And there is a reason why this is particularly put here, because of what we read yesterday. Remember the words of Jesus in the Gospel of yesterday. Do you have ears and do not hear? And do you have eyes but do not see? You have eyes but do not see. And the Gospel ended yesterday in Mark chapter 8 verse 21 with the words, "Are you still without perception?" And then immediately it comes to Jesus healing the blindness. Jesus healing our lack of perception. And this is what we find today in the Gospel. And I just want to continue from where I stopped yesterday. Yesterday I was talking in detail about how the little things that we have taken over our own freedom. And Jesus asking the same question, are you still without perception? Do you have eyes and do not see? Can't you see that your freedom is taken? Can't you see that your time is being stolen away from you? Can't you see that the relationship that we have with each other is being taken away? Think of coffee shops now. Coffee shops used to be places where people would meet and have a discussion and have a chat. But coffee shops now have Wi-Fi, so once people get there, they get connected to their phones and then they are disconnected from each other. Can't we see how much that has been stolen away from us, the relationship we have with each other? Even think about the relationship we have with God. It's also being stolen away from us. I mean, people get into church and the next thing, they are on their phones until the priest starts Mass. And even within Mass, there are still people trying to update things on their phones. I remember going for one Thanksgiving Mass, and the priest who was sitting next to me, right on the altar, was still chatting on the phone. I could see that chatting. I said, what is happening to us? Can't we see? That is the question Jesus is asking. Are you without perception that your time is being stolen? You don't even have time for yourself. You don't even have time for God. You don't even have time for each other because of this little yeast. And this is what Jesus is out to heal. The blind man of Bethsaida comes to Jesus, is brought to Jesus. And it is a process. That is why Jesus touches him the first time and touches him the second time. But remember, he takes him away from the crowd. He takes him away from the normal. He takes him away from the friends that he fears would influence him. It is true they brought him to Jesus, but also it could symbolically mean that we have to get out and be able to realize that we are blind and are in need of God's healing. We are in need of God's healing. We must begin to realize that there is something else that Jesus is offering us. But unless we are able to see unless we are able to see that thing and recognize that we have gone far away from Him, by these little gadgets, we could really be sinking. So can't you see that you are sinking? Can't you see that you are losing the battle? Can't you see that you are being suffocated by trying to satisfy all the social medias? And we ourselves, we install them because we feel we can control them. But in actual fact, it begins to control us. So my dear brothers and sisters, later on in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, in verse 51, in chapter 10, we see Jesus encounter another blind man. And in 51, he says, in verse 51, he says, "What do you want me to do for you?" So the freedom is still ours. Remember, God does not take our freedom from us. The first reading of Sunday from the book of Sirach, chapter 15, from verse 14 following, it says that when God created man, He gave man the gift of freedom. And He said that I place before you fire and water. Whatever thing you wish, you stretch your hand and you pick it. So the choice is still ours. He says, I place before you life and death. Whatever thing you choose would be given to you. God does not take away our freedom. So all these things I say, you can just say, oh, Father Tony has said it, but the freedom to change is ours, just like the freedom of the blind man of Jericho, Bartimaeus. He said to him, what do you want me to do for you? So we have to respond. We have to say, yeah, I know I am blind, but I want to see again. I want to be set free. I want to recover. I want Jesus to recover that which has been stolen away from me. And it is only then that Jesus can heal us of our blindness, can heal us of how far away we have gone away from Him. And the healing is a process. You remember, He touches the blind man the first time, and he does not see clearly. And then again, He touches him the second time, and then he sees everything clearly. It is a journey that all of us have. We don't expect that to happen at a go. But first of all, we must want to see. We must want to be healed. And Jesus says, are you still without perception? My dear brothers and sisters, it is true, technology has come to make things easy, but the same technology can really enslave us. And it has enslaved us. And it is still going to enslave us more if we are not careful, if we don't seek the healing touch of Jesus, if we don't seek to be touched by Him and be healed. My dear brothers and sisters, this is an opportunity. Jesus asking us the same question. What do you want me to do for you? And He asks you the same question. Are you still without perception? Can't you see that you are sinking? Can't you see that you are losing it? Can't you see that this is taking away your time? Can't you see that this is stealing away and taking from you that which God has given you already? So let us ask God for the grace to continue to remain faithful to Him, and most especially that He may open the eyes of our hearts, that we may be able to see all that He has planned for us and be able to respond to that accordingly.